I want to talk about trails, another project Davis got interested in when he was investigating Perry Mesa, and he was trying to figure out how did all the yellowware get to Perry Mesa. So that's one of the starting points for it. And again, since we're at the Sycamore Canyon, you have a trail that goes through, and it's called the General Crook Trail. That was also another stimulus to learn because I'm curious. Connecting between Sycamore Canyon and Hackberry Basin, there was a trail that goes around the back. It doesn't follow the road that we get to it now, but that was also interest to show a connection between these settlement areas was important in Sycamore, and then eventually it evolved into a long-range trail survey. So what I use mostly is from historical reports, starting with Sitgraves, Whipple, Woodhouse, and Wheeler. Lieutenant Bork made an excellent diary of everywhere he went. Scouting reports, which are in the archive records, with maps, and period journals. Newspapers would carry a full story of a survey or an expedition against the Indians. Archaeological reports are at the museum. I can see. Then if there's a trail, then there's a connection between prehistoric sites. So trail surveys, we try to go out as much as we can to verify that the trail that we're looking for. So again, where are we located? We started out in Sycamore, and it's just east of Camp Verde in this area here. Along this is the Coconina Plateau, the edge of it. It's called the Mogollon Rim. It goes in this direction like that. Just a picture of where 260 is sort of right next to General Crook's Road, starting out at Camp Verde, and it follows alongside Sycamore Canyon. And also another thing we were looking at is the placement of sites along the trail. The General Crook Trail just went right near the sites, never went through them, it went by them. So that was a key that it was probably an Indian trail. Also down where I call this Sycamore Trail, you see a lot of sites. They would lie right next to the trail. And this is just a picture of 13 Mile Rock. The original Indian trail came up around here and then went up this hill here and across this plateau. This is just a picture of a map, and I can show you the original pack trail, which went through here. And then when the Army came in, they were really interested in putting wagon roads because you can carry more materials by wagons rather than pack trains. And it was a big push from the people that started moving into the Verde Valley to get roads. And this just shows the General Crook Trail as it comes off, it avoids the steep slopes, and it keeps going this way. Then they have also a bypass because this area gets extremely muddy in the wintertime, so they have bypass roads going around areas. The earliest exploration of the trail was in March of 1864. This is what they call the General Crook Trail. And it was by King Wolseley with the territorial governor and a military escort and 85 miners. You ask why 85 miners? Well, they're looking for new resources of gold or silver or whatever, and nobody had ever explored this area prior to the Americans coming in. So and Lieutenant Carr mapped the trail from Camp Verde to Fossil Creek in 1868, and General Devon took a 60-day scouting expedition against the Apaches where he went to the Mogollon Rim, the Baker's Butte, and then to the White Mountains, which is now called Camp Apache. This is just a picture of going over the hills. The Indian Trail went down through crossed Fossil Creek out to Strawberry. This goes down to Rye. This goes into Pine, into the Tonto Basin here. These are different trails that emanate off of that. And up to this point here, this is called Milk Ranch Point. I want you to see that in the next slide. But this road went up to here, split St. Mary's, or Lake Mary Road, went to Flagstaff, and that was recorded in 1870. And then this road, or this trail, went to Chavez Pass. This one here is the General Springs Trail, coming up from the Tonto Basin, again going to Chavez Pass. This is a 3D version of the area I'm talking about. This is Milk Ranch Point. Again, this is General Springs, and what they're heading for is Chavez Pass right here. And then they cut through here Sunset Pass, which then goes to Winslow area. Along the trails, they do have lookout sites, and this is one at the bottom of Pine Springs Trail. You can see the Mogollon Rim in the background. This is a big lookout above, and then Pine Springs Trail is down below. And then if you follow the trail along Pine Creek, it comes to Pine. There's a big pueblo that sits on the hill above Pine. Now, this is a map that was made in 1868 by General Devon. This is one of the best maps for resource of finding trails, or Indian trails, that I know of. I just want to point out, this wide thing here is a road. And they built the road, the Army built the road before 1868, way before General Crook was here, and he was here in 1871. But you have the trail going across, bypassing Fossil Springs drainage, all the way up to here. And then this is Pine Springs here. They spent 3 days building the trail down into the basin, the Tonto Basin, and then took the lower track at the foot of the Mogollon Rim. This trail here is on their way back from Fort Apache, and the best thing on this here, they have these little squiggle lines, Indian trails. If you get, and I'll go to the next one, and this is just a map of where they went, and then you can see more graphically what they did. Anyway, they went down on the lower edge of the canyon to Fort Apache, scouting all trails, and then back up through here. And his show low will be about right here, and you go across the rim there. That is the exact trail of General Crook, or the wagon road, or whatever he made in 1873. And this is a map to distinguish it, but again, the squiggle lines going up here. This is Promontory Butte is about right here. This is Chevelon Wash here. Again, this is, if you look at some of these, you'll have trail, Indian trail, ruins. Just showing you graphically on a topo where the trails went. And again, this is Promontory Butte here. You had a trail down into the basin. You went to Chevelon ruins, which is important because all of these, Homo Olavi, Chevelon, all probably traded with the people in the lower Tonto Basin. Okay, the central part of Arizona, the Salt River, between Salt River and Little Colorado, was virtually unknown in 1863. Only a few trappers were on the Little Colorado Riverside. The subsequent gold rush displaced the Indians from the traditional food sources and hunting areas. The Indians reacted by stealing the miners' and farmers' stock for food. And the miners and farmers retaliated with armed expeditions into Indian mountain habitation areas. This is just showing you that the Tonto Apaches occupied mainly in the lower Tonto Basin. Yavapai occupied the periphery of it, more along this edge here. The Pino Apaches were one of the first ones to raid into Kirkland area. They would start down in this area and go all the way up through the Bradshaws and up the Kirkland area, steal horses and cows, and then go back into their hideouts. And this is the trails that the white man would follow because they were all marked with cow tracks and whatever. So that was a good way of finding trails, Indian trails, for me. So King Wolsey was one of the first ones to organize expeditions into Indian territory, went down as far as the Salt River, Verde River, East River, Verde River, Tonto Basin, Tonto Creek, and White Mountains and Gila River. So he used, he was one of the first ones to use Indians in this area. He used Pima and Maricopa scouts, explored, at the same time he looked for Indians, he looked for mineral sources. And a lot of these miners who got tired of mining would become Army scouts for the Army. So they knew this area, they would help guide the Army through them later on when the forces built up. This is a picture, I'm just showing you the route that Woolsey took. I'm not going to discuss them all, but the first one that he took, his ranch was right at Dewey, and he came down through Black Mountain Canyon, across where Anthem is, to Fort McDowell, and then across up the Salt River. The Pima Indians came from this area here. They met them near Fort McDowell. This trail here was recorded in 1620 by the Spanish. The Maricopas came from this area, so they went to with Woolsey in that direction. And one of the first fights with the Apaches was around this area here. It's called Bloody Tanks. If you read about Woolsey, you'll understand that one. So, now, talking about pueblos again along trails, this is a very large pueblo. It sits at the head of Black Mountain Canyon. It's called Dripping Springs. And this is probably the original trail coming down right through here. There are several large pueblos down the path there because there was a trail going east to west, coming from the Kirkland area across, and then probably to Perry Mesa. This is a picture of Woolsey on the right. Chief Juan Rivera, here, he was the Maricopa war chief who accompanied Woolsey. They became very close friends throughout their years. Further trail studies, of course, ceramics such as black and white pottery, other places came down into the Verde Valley. Where did they come from? How did they get there was the question. Later, black and yellow type pottery from Hopi got down as far as Perry Mesa and probably into the Hohokam or the Phoenix Basin. Again, which way did they go? So using historical trails data and prehistoric site locations, we can show probable prehistoric routes. That's just black and white pottery. Again, what we find. This is the yellowware pottery that is known from Hopi. Just a map showing you where the location of Hopi is relative to everything else. This is the Hopi Mesas here. Moenkopi was a good source of material. It ended up in Verde Valley. Where the other wares came from exactly, the Tucson black and white wares, I'm not sure. And then we have Little Colorado drainage, which Little Colorado black and white wares come from. But anyway, what were the directions? How did they get down into the Verde Valley? How did they get to Perry Mesa? How did they get into the Tonto Creek area? Just showing you some of the clusters of large pueblos in the upper Little Colorado, and then down here is the Anderson Mesa. River crossings are noted in red. The Little Colorado is mostly sandy, quicksand. These red points are hard rock basin where they can cross. And when I first started this project, I only knew of one, which is at Winslow, but there are close to 10 crossing points on the Little Colorado River. This is one, just north of here is the crossing point, but this is called Grand Falls. It's right near Wapatki. It was a route almost to Flagstaff, more directly to Flagstaff. This is a picture from Burke showing the map that he made from Arrivie to the crossing at Grand Falls. This is some of the Spanish routes that came from Owadavie to the Verde Valley looking for gold at the mine. This is a map showing, I'll give it briefly, very fast, from Owadavie down. I think they crossed at Loop. They could have crossed at this point here. It's another optional point. But when you go down on the west side of Canyon Diablo, which was named by Whipple, because when he tried to go straight across, he ran into a 250-foot deep canyon. That's why he called it Canyon Diablo. But you can cross Canyon Diablo at some points. Now, Colton and Brickett sort of said they took a different route, which I don't agree with. But in 1864, Lieutenant Colonel Chavez tried to find a trail from the Verde Valley to Sunset Crossing, and he always went through Grapevine Canyon. But in 1870, the soldiers at Camp Verde actually made the trail that Colton and Brickett said was an Indian trail. And I just show you that on Stoneman Lake. This is a picture of the passes at Anderson Mesa. This one here is the trail that goes through Sunset Pass. It's Chavez Pass, but you have two other routes here. One, you have at Grapevine. There's also Kinnickinnick Canyon, and then there's also what I call Anderson Pass, which goes to Mormon Lake. There is 3 crossings, probable crossings right here. You can cross Canyon Diablo, and they aren't very deep. So I plotted what I think is Chavez's trail, and then 2 trails, and then probably the Spanish cross here. And there's this Media Crater, right near Media Crater is where it is. This is what it looks like. Chavez had wagons. He had 2 wagons he was testing if he could cross. So this isn't very hard to cross with a wagon. That's a picture of Sunset Pass from the Chavez Pass pueblos. This is the Verde River, and I just want to show you the clusters of crossings, the Black Mountain area. Like we can only cross, Black Mountain is basically blocking trails going across it. The only way you can cross it, go around Jerome. There's also in the central part, right here where I-17 goes now, Camp Verde, there's a way to get across. The next one would be at Brown Springs. And then I don't think the next one is until the Verde Basin, which is another 20 to 30 miles downstream. So there's just some more pictures of Indian trails in the lower Verde, near the East Verde River. I try to document it with actual descriptions by people, and I mark them who took those trails. This is Bloody Basin. There's a central trail that goes through it, goes all the way down to Cave Creek to Childs. There's about 10 or 12 large pueblos in Bloody Basin. Just again, a map of the trails going through that area. Hopi Mesas is very important because it has a large amount of yellowware pottery. And I think David was considering whether that's the distribution point of yellowware to the lower Verde. So again, this is just some pictures of trails. This is the Chavez Trail going just south of village of Oak Creek. That road there right now goes almost exactly over the trail. This is the trail going down from what they call into Beaverhead Flats, and then that's the old trail there. It was very rough. They were even complaining in 1876 how rough this trail was. It was a wagon road made across. Anyway, this is the upper end of the Verde Valley, and I just wanted to show that. Where did these particular pueblos trade from, or where did they go? There's an easy way to get up north by going the Loy Canyon Trail up to Overland Trail to San Francisco Peaks, and then you can cut across to Wapatki or even to the Hopi Pueblos. The other way is to go across this way, which is much longer. And that's Tuzagoot. Just show you that. And I'm standing on the opposite side of Tuzagoot, and we call it Tuzagoot Extension. From Tuzagoot Extension, we can see this hilltop right here, and that's called Sycamore Pass. You can go through Sycamore Pass to the Sycamore Canyon into the Verde Valley. Also, it's a line of sight for this trail that went up to Loy Canyon. And this is the Army map, and just showing you this because how I found Loy Canyon as a viable trail. You can see this trail going up here. That's Loy Canyon. This is Spring Creek. And they had a big fight with some Yavapai Indians there. The Havasupai were scouts for for the Army in 1873, and that's where they caught these group of Yavapais on top of the hill. Multiple trail connections. They didn't have just one trail, like I thought it was what they call the Palawapuhi Trail. They had numerous trails. Wherever it was straight or the closest to their pueblo, they could follow. Trade locations are unknown, but we know from the Zunis that they would have free zones along particular landmarks, which they would come together with the Apaches and trade. And these are possible trading points: Chavez Pass, Grapevine, on Anderson Mesa, Polis Mesa, East Verde River, jail junctions, and prehistoric and proto-historical and historical areas. Both Yavapai and Apaches used these trails to trade with the Hopi Mesas. That's it.
Thanks.